So I'm Jason Slade. I'm the director of the technical programs at Northwestern Michigan College. And I have Matthew Sullivan, program coordinator of the electronics and electrical technology program at Mott Community College. And so we actually even created an agenda on there, which was pretty good for us. So we have a little light agenda here, but obviously with all things related to our roundtables, and if the past is any precursor, we can wander away from this on there. So, our game plan is to kind of do some brief intros, welcome everybody to the group. We have 11 on the call, 6 that are showing up visually on here. Then we're going to step into some new skills, classes, content, pathways added since the last meeting. Post-COVID holes were a request from many. So, what are you seeing? So that could be student performance. That could be other things related to the pandemic, or positive or negative on there. Then going virtual. So what modalities are you going to keep moving forward? Some programming and software issues. And then we can jump around to instructor qualifications, transferability to four-year institutions. And then what other topics that we have. And again, this is an open forum. We just threw this together so that we had something to kind of work our way through. But we can navigate as people feel fit or see fit, and don't be afraid to jump in, turn that mic on, tell us, what you're feeling, what you're seeing, or something that we need to address on there. So I'm going to hit the stop sharing button on there, and we can jump into some intros. All right. Mark, you want to go first?
Okay. I'm Mark Hyam. I'm currently the Mechatronics instructor and division chair for technology at Bay College in Escanaba. And actually that will end at the end of December. In January, I'm going to take over as the dean of business and technology at Bay College. So if you know anybody looking to move to the UP that wants to teach this stuff, let me know.
Hey, congratulations on that one, Mark.
Well, thank you. The biggest advantage I have is my current dean got bumped up to vice president. So I get to keep working with the same person, and that's one of the reasons I took the job. Is we've got a lot of projects in the hat that now we don't have to get anybody else up to speed on them. We can just keep them moving.
It's kind of nice when you get that team movement up on there. Well, congratulations.
Yep. Thanks.
Chris, you want to go next?
Sure. Chris Roberts, ATS Midwest. We are a Swiss Army knife supplier of multiple product lines. Amatrol is my heavy hitter, typically in advanced manufacturing and electronics, but I also do Megatech, which is more automotive electronics and specialties in that line. But, curriculum, e-learning support, and the factory picture behind me, which if you haven't been, we're happy to host you to bring you down to this place. It's down in just north of Louisville.
Perfect. Thank you on there. How about anybody else? Like Stephanie? Chris and Tom, I see you on there. Do you want to do quick intros? Tom's waving. You're muted, Tom.
Might be a mic issue because I don't see the little slash through the microphone.
Yeah, I think. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Hi, I'm Chris. I work with Tom. We're both at Grand Rapids Community College in the ATC Electronics Department.
Welcome, Chris.
Thanks.
All right. Diane, you want to do a quick intro?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Diane Holtzinger-Braden from Delta College. I am the coordinator for the electrician and the mechatronics programs at Delta.
Excellent. Thank you very much for joining us today. So our first area of our topics on there is, what are those, since we met last, and so some of us met last December, but it was a different group. And then the last time we met in person, that was at GRCC in 2019 on there.
Yep.
I mean, so it's been a little while. Chris, we were in your lab space over there. Tom, hosted us. So what new skills, classes, content have people added since that last meeting? So if we look at the last, 18 months or maybe 2 years, what have you added to your curriculum or to your programs?
I don't know. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
You want to go, Chris, or you want me to?
They added me. I was hired in 2020, so kind of new there.
Chris is the new Roger.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Chris.
Thank you. Yeah, Tom's probably better to answer than I am. I don't know that we've added a lot of classes, but we've been taking a lot of time to kind of change out the content in a bunch of the classes, sort of upgrade things. And then, Tom, maybe you talk about the 2 classes you and Patrick added.
Yeah, we added a robotics class this semester. And then we're working on building another advanced robotics class. And we're getting a lot of feedback from industry about adding some kind of industrial networking class. So we built a couple of that into a little bit of that into our mechatronics class, but we may have to add an entirely new class. But yeah, it's pretty, with the COVID, we haven't made many program changes. We've been mostly fighting with modality, how to get the material out.
And Tom, you added your Arduino class.
Yeah, we did add an Arduino makers class to try to get to the novice and slowly reel them in. That'll start in the winter. We're sort of steering that one to our science majors in the other building.
I was going to ask you, does it have any prereqs on it, or is it open to everybody?
It assumes you don't know anything. It's open to everyone.
Yeah, we actually, as Jason remembers, we did something similar, and we even gave it a very catchy name. But then we ran into the Pathways Initiative, where financial aid wouldn't cover anything that wasn't in a program. So all these fun classes like guitar building, embedded controllers, especially intro to Arduino type stuff, was almost impossible to run when we needed 2/3 seat counts. However, things are improving along those lines. That's one thing that has improved, I think, is that classes that are even 50% may run. But depending upon the total seat count, sometimes that's difficult for these classes that aren't in a program, because students really need to focus on those 62 credits for their degree. But we still have it on the books, and we can, change it up and offer it on demand or in a condensed format, 2 week, 4 week, 6 weeks, something like that.
Yeah, usually we'll run a class if it hits the 50% mark. We'll run it. But yeah, it is. If it's not embedded as a requirement, that's sometimes a problem. It would count towards an elective in some of our programs. But yeah, that's a little rough when financial aid wouldn't necessarily pay for it. But we'll see. We're trying to get, we have a fair amount of hobbyists in the area, and there's an Arduino club that meets downstairs. We thought maybe we could leverage some of that to give them a couple credits.
Yeah, we started a robotics club, and we're building a battle bot with the intention of entering it in a competition.
Oh,
of course, the COVID situation kind of derailed all of that, because that was 100% in person. And with the restrictions, that kind of got sidelined. That was one new thing we had going, but it still remains. That stuff is not going to go. It's not going anywhere. Those motors and everything we had in the chassis are solid, so that can get picked up again here soon. Over on the Mott side, I know I think 2 years ago I mentioned we began a panel building class as an option to our certificates and degrees, and that is the one class that was almost impossible to run with any kind of social distancing or online. You know, we've done a tremendous amount in terms of doing hybrid online and different modalities. But when you're building an automation panel, you can't just go virtual. So that one has kind of been put on hold. Luckily, we have a couple other options for that class, but that one's coming back around here this winter and spring. And that is, I mean, we're building large, industrial control panels, and due to the expense, we have about 3 students per panel to get through it. And we try to maintain social distancing, although the students really have difficulty with that. But that was one casualty. I think everything else we've been able to run.
Yeah, I think what we learned is we'll probably keep a couple of the classes online. I think our math, EL math class, we're going to keep that one online. We always thought we had some scheduling problems there, and once we put it online, and enrollment in that class went way up, and I guess that did show we had some scheduling problems there. But we're trying to balance out our schedule between Grand Rapids and Holland, which is, they're not incredibly far away, but it is about a 30-minute drive to get here from Holland. But that class worked out pretty well online. We had a couple more that we'll probably keep online, but most of them we feel like, they have to get some hands-on experience. They can't. There's only so many simulations you can do, right?
So before we get into the modality topic, which is fascinating, are there any new courses or programs at Oakland, Delta, Bay, Wayne? Anything new in terms of just new courses or new certificates programs?
Well, here at Bay, we expanded our certificate. We originally had a 24 credit certificate, and at the request of our local ISDs, we expanded that to 32 credits so that they could start it in the ISDs and then do an early middle college and still have enough credits to be full-time in that 5th year. So that's worked out pretty well for us. The 2 ISDs that we mainly serve, one has a Mechatronics certificate in it, the other one does not, but they have CAD and machine tool. So we've been able to do enough electives that they can come from either of those. Obviously, the agreements look a little different, but both of them can come in then and get the Mechatronics certificate. So we're starting to see an uptick in the number of students from that. That's the only new program. And then the other thing was we moved into a new lab in the middle of COVID. So.
Nice.
Well, a new old lab.
I like that. So I'm taking notes over here. So if you see me looking to the side, that's why. And then I'll throw them in our agenda and send it out. Kind of echoing Mark's, at NMC, we actually added another early college pathway with Wexford Misaki Career Tech Center. So they have a CNET program that has probably 80 students in it annually. Some of those students live north of Cadillac, so they can be commuters to Traverse City. And then we've done some adjustments to try to get them here, where our other early college agreement with the other Career Tech Center was much easier because they're 300 yards away from our facility. So, 2 different groups, but very important group. So we did some tweaks. Mark had to do some adjustments like you were talking about for our pathways to make it work for them on there. So we added that as a pathway. Many of you probably already have this, but we did not have a formal certificate for our apprentices. And so we were having apprentices come through, whether it's our manufacturing, our control side, PLC side, whatever, and they might not earn enough credits to get any sort of NMC credential. So actually working with one of our bigger manufacturers up here, we just have a standalone apprentice certification that we can kind of customize the language on in the classes so that they get some sort of NMC credential, because it kind of seemed like it was not working very well on there. So that's one thing that we've been doing. Real quick, Sandra in the chat added some comments too, and so did Stephanie. Stephanie gave us an update. She's Wayne County Community College working in EE and mechanics program on there. And then she's very new to the role. So, hey, welcome, Stephanie. We are an easygoing group, and we'll make sure that this gets distributed out so we can be a great reference for you, especially if you're trying to figure out what to add or tweak. And then Sandra is on here. They added a non-credit program for PLC and robotics technician program, 14 weeks that culminates with a FANUC Cert 1 and other certificates at OCC. So that if she comes on, that's something that they've added, and it looks like it's in the non-credit side of the house on there.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, excellent. Hi. Yeah, so we've been running for the past maybe 2 or 3 years, actually, a little bit pre-COVID, a PLC and robotics technician course. It's 14 weeks, as it says there. FANUC Cert 1, OSHA, and some other things. They get hydraulics, pneumatics, and some other things with the program. We've done that in partnership with business and industry locally. And our students, they come in and talk to our students about the career opportunities. And then the last day of class, then they have the opportunity to interview. It's only 15 at a time. We're looking to align that so that they can actually get credit for some of the program offerings. We've got a little bit of work to do on some of the competencies. We should have probably started there, but lesson learned. So hopefully we'll be able to do that over the next 6 to 12 months.
Andrew, that sounds like an interesting program. I have a question for you related to that. So you're working backwards, which we've all done, and try to figure out how to make those connections back to that credit side. Is that just done via negotiation between, you and your program and the credit side? Is there something more formal? How are you going about that?
So we've identified all of the competencies that would be needed for a couple of credit classes in alignment with the curriculum. And there's some components that were not identified. I can't tell you exactly what they are off the top of my head, but some of those components that need to be added in to the non-credit program in order to get them. There's some areas. What happened is what we did to go backwards. We have a new faculty member in that area and is interested in working with us. Jason Workman is the faculty member there. And, we basically gave him the outline and he kind of matched it up with some of his classes and the competencies that are instructed in the classes, and then identified where we had some missing pieces. So it's kind of a matching it up, and he's helped us as a faculty member to identify some of those things. And then we need to figure out how we can incorporate those pieces and parts so that we can, down the road, like I said, get students some credit for those courses and the training that they've taken.
Great. That sounds similar to what we do on there.
With workforce.
Really well
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's worked really well for us. It's the OSHA certs, FANUC certs, anything like that instructors are certified. It's easier for the articulation.
We've also, within that program, embedded some workplace skills through Tooling U. There's a couple of career pathway opportunities. And then, we have resume writing, LinkedIn workshops, and all those kinds of wraparound with the program to help the students with gaining that experience and knowledge. And, how do I set up LinkedIn profile? How do I do an interview? What should I dress? What questions should I have? What keyword searches should I have on my LinkedIn resume, and all of those kinds of things. We do offer the OSHA certification as a part of that program. I think they do that in the very beginning. They get their OSHA cert card. And then that's just another credential that they have.
Any other updates, programs, classes, courses on there? Yeah, you sounded a little funny, Sullivan.
Actually, Jason, it's not necessarily electronics related, but it might fit in here. There's been I can't think of the organization, but it's basically Michigan electric companies. So it's like consumers and DTE. And they got together and they put together a pre-lineman program. And they've been going out and recruiting these guys to come in and take some courses. And then if they do well in the courses, they send them down for some clinics like pole climbing and this kind of thing. And eventually it's a way to kind of fast track these guys into getting to be linemen and then on their way to moving up in the company. And we were partnering with them in some of that, teaching some of those classes. And it's actually been a pretty interesting program because people have now been actively steering kids toward a trade, toward a technical degree or a kind of thing, rather than tell them go work at McDonald's or go to 4-year college kind of thing. So that's been kind of neat for us to see there.
And are you delivering some of those courses, or are you guys training within their program? How does that work?
We're delivering the courses for them. There's a PE course, an energy course, electric course, and can't think of the fourth one. I think it's OSHA. So
Yeah, those are non-credit as well.
yeah, it's all non-credit, but it's been kind of refreshing to see a group like that put some stuff together. They ran 2 cohorts, and now they're kind of on hold till they get a little further into the program to evaluate it and see if they want to keep going.
Nice. And did they come to you, or was that something that was already in existence and you reached out to them? How did that relationship go?
That's above my pay grade, to be honest with you. I just was tapped on the shoulder to help teach. So
That's Tom's pay grade.
No.
I think that's even above his pay grade, honestly.
Yeah, Patrick's the new department head, so yeah. And he's too busy to make it to this meeting.
Good. Well, how about we move into some of the post-COVID topics? What are you seeing in terms of student performance on there?
I don't think I've seen a difference, honestly, in the performance. I still got about the same kind of curve in the class that I would expect or that I had been seeing. Got everything from the ones that are really nailing it, really get it, that kind of thing, to the ones that are struggling. Fairly even distribution there. We never really went 100% online, like Tom was saying, other than a few classes that really they lend themselves to being completely online. We always had sort of a hybrid approach where it'd be some online lecture, homeworks, those kinds of things, but there would always be a lab or a live lecture component along with the class. So I don't think it changed that much, at least for me. We actually, most of us still leave the videos with our classes now that we're back in person. The students seem to like to have those. But I don't think I had a negative or a positive impact from it.
Is my audio working a little better now?
Yep.
Yeah,
No
good.
feedback? Okay.
Good.
All right, good. Yeah, if I could, sorry you can't see me. I don't know. I can't get my mic to, or my camera to want to appear. And when I try my other mic or my other camera, it messes everything up. So I have seen some improvements, I think, in the online atmosphere, but only because we're doing the synchronous online and because we're allowing the students to have their lab equipment at home to actually do the labs. I have seen some improvements in our grades overall. If you looked at the average score of our students, you still have the ones that just aren't getting it or are struggling. But I think as a whole, my classes have improved a bit. And I think part of the reason for that is because we videotape the lectures. And if the students miss something, they can go back and listen to it again. And another thing I think that really helps them is having the lab equipment at home. The ones who really want to learn the new information are practicing a lot at home, using the meters and the equipment to actually take measurements and so forth. We're in a face-to-face environment. We only have so much time for the labs, and the students don't always necessarily to get as much hands-on as they are with them at their home. So I don't know, some positive experiences that I've seen.
So we had, we've had some positive, but we did have some negatives too. We've heard from some of our upper level courses that they felt the students were missing some of the fundamental skills. And when we kind of traced back who those students were and what classes they were in some of our, we were trying some different hybrid options at the time where students were coming in, you know, 1 day a week and then completing a large chunk of labs, or, you know, doing work maybe every other week on there. I mean, still doing, you know, online material. They were meeting, some were meeting via Zoom or live stream. So they were still meeting with the instructor, but the hands-on portion, they still did the same number of labs, but they did it accelerated. And we're seeing now that they're in what I would call like our one of our integration classes. They're struggling with some fundamentals, where we had another, like a test group that was doing more of a traditional pacing, and they don't seem to have as many holes. So that's something we're trying to figure out. Was that a systemic issue? Was that the way we delivered that particular class? Like, you know, what happened on there? So we did have a little bit of lax in some of the fundamental skills in that one group.
Jason, just curious on that. Did you so you're saying you didn't see that pre-COVID? Because that's where I'm saying I didn't really see a difference. You know, I've still got, seems like I've got guys that they pick it up and they master the fundamentals, and then I'm new, so I teach the low level courses, you know, and then Tom and Patrick take the advanced students, and they don't yell at me as much anymore because the students don't know anything. I'm kidding, but you know, so were you seeing that beforehand, or did you just happen to notice that now?
I think there's some instability in the platform. I don't know if Jason heard that. I had to go out and come back in and refresh. I think I'm good now, but I could answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the hybrid and online, from what we've seen, it's just if you know, in terms of retention or you know, there's always a student that really just needs to be in front of you. So I think those issues have always been there. I think it's exacerbated by hybrid online classes for certain students. Works fantastic for some, but not for all. So, you know, we're kind of trying out everything. You know, we've tried all the different modalities. We only have one class that could be purely online. That's all we'll ever have. Unfortunately, it'd be great if we could do more, but it's all hands on. And they have to be, you know, butts in the seat in class. And that's how most of our students learn. But yeah, I think we experienced the same thing that Jason was talking about. You know, with the post-COVID holes, there may be a student who had to quarantine for 14 days and then came in and did 5 labs in 1 day.
Yeah.
And that doesn't really help them at all. And you know, this content is meant to be developed and built over time and scaffolded up. And when you don't have that and you're just racing to the finish line, there's going to be large gaps in those, you know, as he mentioned, more advanced, more, you know, hardware, software integration, more project-based classes where you're doing things over a period of half a semester or a full semester as opposed to 1 lab on 1 day. And
yeah,
but you know, we've gotten a lot better and we've gotten pretty good with most of the classes. And I think, at least speaking from our side, a lot of these hybrid classes are here to stay, particularly for the apprentices, because they are working, you know, 700 hours a week. And that's always been the issue, is our students, almost all of them work. And, you know, and one, whether in the field or not. And the hybrid has really helped them. It caters to their learning. Things are available 24/7, as Diane mentioned. And of course, we have instructors who've gotten better at delivering that modality and that content. So not all of them, you know, our apprentice curriculum and our master electricians and that side of the house, they don't want anything to do with hybrid or online. It's like, I'm in the classroom, we're doing this here. This is how we're going to do it. And that's great. For the classes that can be hybrid, we will keep them that way. It's I mean, maybe 50% of the program.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I would actually like to do away with hybrid. I'd like to bring it back full in person, personally. But yeah,
it's a lot. Hybrid and online is an infinite more work for everyone involved. You know,
Yep.
And it's a 24/7 situation, which is has its pros and cons. Students tend to wait till the last day. Often, some of them, you know, I'd say it. You know, imagine that trying to learn a week's of material in 3 hours.
So you're talking about full online there, or even the hybrid?
Well, the way our hybrid, we set it up so it runs like an online class might, where it's like on a weekly basis. So we have timed release on a weekly basis, and therefore, when the content's released, a student could hop in, and if they've already have that skill, they could take the quiz and be done. You know, complete the lab, take the quiz, do the assignments, whatever it is for that particular class. Or they, as Diane mentioned, they can watch a video 700 times if it helps. They don't have, you know, in terms of note taking and retention and reading comprehension, all those things improve with that format if you have good time management skills.
Right.
And that's my biggest thing is teaching. You know, we end up teaching time management. We end up teaching lots of things that are non-technical.
Matt, that's why I think the synchronous format helps so much.
Yeah.
Because the synchronous format, they're forced to be in class at that same time.
Yep. And yeah, it keeps them on track. And then there's certain things you just can't do online that you can do in person.
Right.
Obviously. But in terms of keeping people on track or managing your class, you know, it's a whole different ballgame when you're in person versus hybrid versus online.
Right.
It caters to that instructor's abilities and the student's abilities, you know, to keep everybody moving and on the same page. You know, so I could talk forever about this since we've tried so many different things over the last year and a half or so.
That's why I don't know if our program, like ours in particular, could ever go fully online. Because I just think they would lack too much. But with the synchronous online, like I'm actually showing them the labs and they're actually showing me their circuits and their measurements. So they have to share their camera. Obviously, I'd be dead in the water today because I can't get my camera to work.
Yeah, we only have one, like I said, we only have one fully online class, actually two. Mm-hmm. I developed a LabVIEW class online. I didn't mention that earlier. I took that over from a retiring faculty. And that worked great. That worked really nice because the students already have a ton of skills by that point. It's one of our upper level classes. It's all software based and they need minimal hardware. But other than that, that's it, you know, and we'll see how we go. But that's where we're at, you know, about 50% hybrid, 2 online classes, everything else is in person. And again, it really comes down to the instructor. We have several instructors who flat out refuse to get ETOM certified. So they'll be teaching in person.
So jumping in there, and I know I missed a ton because I had the typical issues that our students online do, right? Even though I'm sitting on campus on our network, but wait, whatever happens. Chris, your point, I have no idea if we had those issues before or not. Yeah. You know, I think we did, but I think how do I word this? I think that maybe we're paying more attention to it now or looking at it different or trying to be like, hey, did we screw up on there? So I don't know. I think time will tell because like Sullivan was saying, and sorry to interrupt, is we're still running some hybrid options like you're talking about. Sullivan on there, where we still have one of our intro electronics class. They just have to come in at some point to do some synchronized lessons like Diane's talking about. And then they got to do some work. And then, but in comparison, we have 2 that are traditional, twice a week in person. They're full that we're running. So we'll see on there. We have a couple courses though we decided to keep live stream forever. We got some feedback from industry partners that wanted them to be able to do teamwork and do teaming online. We have that we have a larger entrepreneurial base that's trying to grow up here in Traverse City through 20 Fathoms and TC New Tech. And so the idea is they're going to get more remote workers. And so they want our students to be able to handle it. So we have a microcontroller class and a Python programming class that's all online, but it's synchronous. So like they're with the instructor, and if they're not, they watch the videos afterwards. And so they're actually watching him code and do the work.
So did you guys do much asynchronous then? I guess because it sounds like Jason, Diane, man, it sounds like you guys were a lot more synchronous maybe than we went at GRCC.
So I'll jump in. We were not very asynchronous. We had I think I have, even now, I think we have a GD&T class, a low-level drafting, and a low-level drafting class that are asynchronous, and that's it. But not in the mechatronics, electronics area.
Yeah, same here. We have nothing that's asynchronous in the electrician and mechatronics. At best, we're synchronous online. My adjuncts, though, drastically prefer face-to-face. So we're back to face-to-face right now, and we're continuing to go back to face-to-face. And I'll probably be the only one continuing on with any synchronous classes.
So Diane, though, so you're synchronous, though. They're still hybrid, correct? So are you meeting face to face, or because you've figured out a way to have the labs be at their residence or whatever, are you fully online but synchronous?
Only the classes that can be. I mean, obviously, our bigger equipment, our big mock assembly lines and so forth, we can't take those to the students' home. Those are still hybrid. Okay, so the lecture, even during the worst of COVID, the lecture was synchronous online, and then the students would still meet at Delta for the lab.
Okay.
The classes that we could take synchronous online fully, we did. And in order to do that, we had to get the equipment from Delta. Delta had to buy enough equipment for all of our students to have at home. And
so
then we can turn it.
That's actually, I'm really curious about that, because we've kind of talked about that too, sort of a lab in a box or whatever. But what did you wind up providing? Did you basically wind up providing some sort of proto board with a built-in power supply and a meter and those kinds of things? Or
Yep, a power supply, a breadboard, resistor kits, and a meter for the intro DC class, and then for the AC class, they get a different power supply, breadboard, resistors, capacitors, inductors, transformers, oscilloscope, and meter. So a lot of different equipment that we're supplying. Those are big hitter classes. We usually have like 5 classes a semester with those, and those we've been able to teach synchronous online.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep, you bet.
And do they have to give that back?
Yes, yes, they're supposed to. We have had a little trouble with some of our students not returning the equipment, and that is what it is. For the most part, they're returning the equipment.
Anyone doing conduit bending online? That was a joke. Sorry.
Yeah, I was laughing, but I muted myself.
One thing I will say, and maybe I missed it when I had the audio problem, but what we have offered online has been incredibly popular in terms of enrollment, and we've attracted students. These are the intro class. We've attracted students I don't think we would ever have seen before. So that is one huge positive, and a few of them probably, obviously will continue through the program now. And these are all things we talked about over the years and wanted to do, and luckily we work best with the gun to our head. So now we know.
Yeah, I agree with you, Matt. I think this generation really likes the online, and they really like not having to drive back and forth. And whenever they can, I think they're willing to try it at least.
Yeah, there's a nice balance there that we've been seeking. I think we're getting closer.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that we ran into is we met a bigger group like you're talking about. So especially so what we call our RAM courses, it's a rover. So you build a robot, you add a small rover, tractor, wheeled vehicle. It has a Raspberry Pi, program with Python, and you keep it. So that's what I was asking Diane what they do. And we use it over 2 courses. And then for a capstone course, you can use it again. So you might use it for 3. So we had students come pick those up, but then we had another number of students that signed up that weren't even close to us geographically. So we ended up mailing it to them, which was fine, FedExed it. But the thing we've run into, and Diane, maybe you have too, is when they have parts that burn out, we're constantly FedExing or overnighting stuff or sending it in envelopes. Or I was driving downstate a few weekends ago, and I just did like this loop of dropping crap off at people's doors. Like, here's an SD card for you. Here's a Raspberry Pi in your mailbox. So that was one thing that we ran into a little bit on the logistics side.
Oh yeah, we're there with you. We've started shipping. We used to ask the students to come back into Delta to get replacement parts, and now we're shipping them.
Yeah, we had the privilege of having our full-time crib attendant retire in the middle of the pandemic. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Hey Jason, when you had the stuff where I've just recently started, we had sort of community components, if you will, in our labs. So they were, assigned to a bench essentially, and it was becoming unmanageable. And so we've kind of started to shift toward providing kits to the students that they bring in, so they own it, they keep it. But we thought about having those be for multiple courses. So they would kind of get one and then they could use it for another 4 courses. So sort of like your tractor there. Did you have trouble with people losing that thing or, misplacing it? Or did you have someone that maybe came in? Is it possible they could have come into the second course and they didn't have the first one, so they didn't have the tractor? How did you handle that?
So a couple of things, and then I'll let Sullivan jump in because they use a totally different model at Mott. So we have them baked into the course fees, right? And then we just give them their kit, right? So they take that. Then once we have students losing it, we were just replacing the parts kind of for free. And thankfully, we didn't have a lot that was occurring with. But I could see that being a problem. We did have a run there where a couple of them were just burning up boards nonstop. And that got problematic, and we had to kind of step in and be like, okay, you can't just troubleshoot with the board. Like, you need to do some real troubleshooting and work with a tutor or one of us to get it functional. And then we did have that issue you're talking about with students coming in partway through the program. They either transferred the class in from somewhere else, or they were from an old catalog revision and came back. And we just ate the cost of that as a division and gave them the material. The material wasn't the problem, is they were missing all that knowledge. Like, they almost needed a private tutor to get like the rover built so they could do the second class. And so for a while we were running some separate courses just for those students stuck in transition, but there's not many of them left. So we're doing it on a case-by-case basis, but I don't have a good answer. So Sullivan, you guys have done different approaches. I know that.
Yeah, we're changing that as we speak as well. Yeah, we have the same issue. Our program builds from class to class, and every class they get a kit, and it gets integrated in. And by the end of the program, they're coming in looking like they're going on a 6-week trip to Europe with 3 suitcases. And so, the way we handled this was, we had basically a full-time crib with a point-of-sale system, and if they lost stuff or burned it up, we would sell them components. Now that our full-time crib attendant is retired, we're looking at this whole situation with new eyes. And I think with kind of what Jason mentioned, I think makes a little more sense for us because, we were selling students 3-cent resistors and we didn't take credit cards. So, you know, at the end of the semester, it might be $30 in parts, which we can just absorb and make it easier for everybody. So, I really like what Grand Rapids has set up. You know, the way you have those the lockable glass cases and certain things right there, and you know, transformers and other things you can pull easily. You don't have to go to a different part of the building or a different room and leave the classroom. We want to kind of find a nice middle ground with that, and also just the components. I think going forward, if someone's using a pull down resistor on an input and they burn up a 10K resistor, we're going to give them here's 3 more, Merry Christmas. You know, it doesn't make sense to try to manage a point of sale system that isn't, you know, hundreds and hundreds or thousands of dollars. It's just, you know, so we're changing that.
So if it helps you so we actually went with the kit rather than, you know, selling them resistors and that kind of thing. We did what Jason was saying as part of the course fees. It's covered. They get a kit for EL 106, which is like basic technical electronics. And so, you know, it's got a proto board like Diane was describing, you know, resistors, caps, all that stuff. So we went with a company called Jameco. Yeah. So it was a bit of a chore to get it set up with them. But once we did, I'm fairly happy now with the kit. And, you know, their minimums are 10. Right. So on a lot of those resistors, it's not like you're buying one and putting it in the kit. So when I found out they had a minimum of 10, you know, it wound up costing 70 cents instead of 7. But then the student had plenty of spares, you know, to get them through. But that was because that kit, we thought about making that kit be, you know, they would come in, they'd get 106 and then they'd have the kit for 107, 204, 205, whatever, multiple classes. And that's the part that I don't think is going to work out. I think we're going to have to change that. So they might wind up with multiple breadboards, but just having them, you know, find that kit if they've been gone 2 years, right, and bring it back to take the next course. That became the other thing I'll mention to you is if you guys do get into a model like we've got where you've got all that equipment and the benches and that kind of stuff, you got to appoint somebody to look after that stuff, because stuff gets moved around. You don't know who took it where. You know, there's stuff that somebody puts it on a bench somewhere that they hope somebody else notices to, you know, tag it so that it gets fixed. You know, you come into the lab and you're not able to run it because stuff's missing. So, you know, take some time to really put some guidelines in place if you're going to do that to try to keep all that stuff. Oh, I lost him. But anyway, the rest of them, but
yeah, we have a lot of adjuncts that sometimes in the heat of battle at night, things go to different labs.
Yeah.
Take a note about that, about having, you know, some sort of system in place. I put down there with the GRCC or the Jamco kits that GRCC is using on there. Chris Roberts, were you saying something?
Not that I know of.
Oh, okay. I just saw your face.
I'm happy to talk. You know me, man.
No. So, all right, that's pretty good on there. So we talked about a little bit about student performances. We're kind of in that section about, you know, what are we keeping, you know, what modalities going forward. We talked about the equipment part on there. Sullivan, we got about 25 more minutes on there. Do you want to talk about instructor qualifications or transferability, or open it to the group? What would you like to do?
I think my audio is back. I keep having to refresh and go out and come back in. Hopefully you can hear me. I can hear you, but I can't see you.
We can hear you fine.
Okay. I'm just curious because we've had this discussion over the years regarding the Higher Learning Commission and qualifications for instructors in these areas. And I know the various colleges have, you know, their own job descriptions and qualifications internal, which may be above and beyond what the HLC requires. Recently in our area, because we want to have master electricians teaching in the program, we having a requirement that a master electrician also have a bachelor degree really was a major problem. And, very few master electricians have a bachelor degree because of what's entailed to become a master.
You're looking at it for a unicorn at that point.
Yeah, they're like Yoda. So we were able to solve this because we dug in and we have a new dean, and he's very, we all read the HLC language. We know what's there, and we want to be way above and beyond and have the highest qualified instructors for a code class or for a conduit bending class or just apprentice specific, state of Michigan apprentice classes. That didn't make any sense. So we are now in the tech division, especially in automotive. They just hired several new instructors, and I think they have industry experience and an associate degree. So they have the same level degree that the students are achieving in the program. I'm just wondering how that looks at some of the other schools currently.
Yeah, GRCC Tech to be hired as a full-time instructor. They still would like you to have a master's degree. Certainly, you have. They would hire you with a bachelor's degree, but you have 4 years to get a master's degree. That's still the case. Adjuncts, they are a little bit more flexible on. They'll definitely take you if you have a bachelor's degree, but I have seen them back down from that a few times and take someone with an associate's degree and credentials, but I haven't seen anything lower than that. But it's a big organization. It's difficult for people to override the standing order, so to speak.
But we do also try to look for the unicorns, Matthew, like you were saying. So we've not had real good luck relaxing that requirement for hiring some people.
We have high standards, except for that area of electrical apprentices. That's where, if you're a master electrician, this is the person that needs to be in front of these students. And we had a lot of problems with this over the years, and we almost were unable to run a class when one of our former master electricians retired.
Wow.
And so we've been able to kind of break it up into different content areas. So right now we've solved this issue just with the apprentice classes, but with everything else, the standards still remain pretty much how they've always been.
We have canceled this semester. We canceled a few HVAC classes because we couldn't find the right unicorn to teach. So given the choice, they did cancel the class versus relax.
It's one of the hardest things you'll ever do, trying to find a good teacher. It is a challenge.
We had experienced credentials people that are on the HVAC advisory committee that did not have bachelor's degrees, and they would have been excellent teachers, but the school wouldn't hire them.
Yeah, that's the catch. It really is. You might have someone with a PhD and everything looks incredible on paper, but when you get them in a classroom, the students aren't responding and engaged. You have some problems.
Now, I haven't read the HLC documents in several years. What exactly? Can you refresh my memory on what's in there?
Well, they leave it very open. It's very much a gray area for CTE programs. I think where I'm coming from is more what are the administration from an administration level. How are they interpreting that? Because I think a lot of the different schools might interpret what's written there different. I think what's actually written there is it is perfectly acceptable to have to teach in like an HVAC or welding.
That's what I remembered. I guess I would call them weasel words, but I remember seeing that in the HLC. The school owns the business model. If that's the way they want to run, all we can do is continue advising and recommending.
Yep.
So Hey, Sandra, thank you very much for joining us on there. We appreciate it. Mark threw out there that Bay requires a BS degree in work experience. An MS degree is preferred for full-time.
Yeah, that's a bachelor's if you're teaching a 2-year degree program, at least an associate if you're doing a certificate. I think that's pretty standard. And then to meet the Perkins requirements, they want people with work experience. And again, sometimes it's hard enough just to find somebody with a bachelor's in work experience or a 2-year in work experience.
Yeah, I don't see this problem getting any better from our side. The demand in industry, at least in West Michigan, for the skilled folks is wages are definitely going up, and to convince someone to sort of move over to teaching is hard enough.
We've had a tremendous problem in our machining area, and I think the way to get creative here is to, if you're tied to a certain scale for entry level or first year, perhaps there's a way to give stipends to lure people from industry. But you're absolutely right. You're not going to walk away from a 6-figure job to make $40,000 teaching, which is what it looks like on paper for many people at many schools.
Yeah, if you look at it on paper, it looks pretty bad. But if you look at there's a lot of other benefits to teaching that you have to sell them on.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we need to do a better job of, is kind of get more creative with how we're marketing that. We've had 4 or 5 instructors in that area. A couple of them were excellent. I mean, they're master fabricators and doing really creative things, and we just can't keep them around. They get lured out and they're gone. And the thing is, if you do stick around, and it can really be lucrative, but it does take takes a little bit of time to get there.
But yeah, we're looking for adjuncts, so just to put it out there.
So are we.
Us too, and a full-time mechatronics guy.
I think that's a blanket statement for everyone I'm looking at.
I know this has been one of the hardest times I've seen to track good talent, either whether it's full-time positions, because we've had a few full-times pop up, and the adjunct positions. Our pools have been really limited on there. Or what we're doing a lot is we're just stealing from each other. Like I stole the Career Tech Center's welding instructor, and then they turned around and stole our auto body guy. So like that doesn't do any good, because now we both have holes.
Yeah, that'll show you.
Also, we just hired a welding instructor for full-time, and our master agreement allows us to increase the steps for experience. Basically, there's some little language in it. It has to be, it's only going to apply to the career tech ed areas, and the full association board has to agree to it. But again, we've kind of recognized that you're not going to find someone at, like you said, if they've got a master, or this person was actually doing apprentice training at the shipyard. So he's been doing welding training, meeting QA standards for the Navy, but they don't think he's got teaching experience to count for credits. So again, we've got that language in our contract, which allows us as the occupational educators to go to them and say, hey, we really need this guy. This person can teach. And by the way, we want to give them credit for their related work experience on the steps when they start. So that allows us to at least bring them in, for lack of a better word, not at the bottom of the pay scale.
That's interesting on there. We went through a process last year where we cut our, we chopped off the bottom of our adjunct scales, because this is going to sound crazy, but there was 20 steps in our adjunct scales. And, needless to say, I mean, like what? I mean, we were starting these people out so low, and we had some really good instructors, a PLC class, and the guy's like, I'm not doing this, right? And I get it. So we chopped off the bottom 5 and then have what Mark's talking about for our adjuncts to kick them up a little higher, but there is a cap. So we cap them at some point. Same thing with our full-time instructors, but again, there's a cap. And that's been one of the issues is the cap isn't high enough. It doesn't do much for them. And so we need something that has a little more flexibility if we're going to get somebody in more permanently. And so as we kind of morph here, we got about 10 minutes left. Any open issues or topics anybody wants to talk about?
You know, this is kind of harkening back to the last discussion, but we have something that's kind of both good and bad. We have like a high school and an associate pay level, but it helps sometimes when we have, as far as getting faculty, you know, qualified faculty that have more industry experience as opposed to degree type credentialing. So it kind of helps in that regard to help get those faculty qualified. The only problem is when you have those pay scale levels, you kind of mentioned it, that it's hard to tell somebody, hey, here's a third of what you made in industry, come work for us. It's a great gig. But so we have those lower pay scales, which help kind of, I don't want to say let us have different credentialing. So we aren't stuck with the bachelor's or master's, but at the same time, it has kind of an adverse effect when you get entered in. For example, my brother's I've been a mechanic for over 20 years and has an associate's degree, but they were going to basically start him at the high school level based on what they want to see from HLCs or what the kind of standard going community colleges. We want you to have a master's in such a matter. So it can kind of be a dual-edged sword that having those qualifications helps get people in, but man, it's hard to tell somebody, hey, take a 75% pay cut and come work for us because we are great to work for.
Thanks, Dave, on that one. You're absolutely right. And you're at LCC, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's going to be an ongoing issue, you know.
Is anyone doing anything with robotic welding?
We do some automated welding, yeah. So it's one class.
Do you have a certificate or is it just a class?
Right now it's just a class on there. Our instructor just went down to, I think it was Lincoln, Matt. I think that's who ours is through, Lincoln Electric. And then he's working through their certification program.
Yeah, I'm selling them right now. There's quite a few Miller and Lincoln weld cells going out. Macomb's got 4 now.
I think this is yours, Chris. I think we bought it from Dan years ago, and it sat and did nothing because our instructor left. And then our new instructor that we hired, he wanted to bring it back, and so he did some training this summer, and we're trying to get it, get it back part of the program.
Yeah, they're starting to get popular. I'm selling them to the high schools. Actually, they're putting them in their programs right now. So, Alpina's dropping one in. I got one up at Lenawee. Should say down, but yeah, they're. I'm surprised how often I've been quoting them because they're 75 to 150,000, to buy these. But so I recommend everybody call me and buy 10, please.
It works perfect with Perkins funding. Nice,
Exactly.
nice and big and easy to understand. That's whenever I put things in that aren't like that, it doesn't get approved because they don't know what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, we have we're installing a cell in the high bay, but we're actually going to repurpose a lot of that room. So I'm not sure what's actually going to happen, but we had plans for a real quick and easy, 18 credit robotic welding certificate where a couple welding classes, existing welding classes, couple existing robotics controls classes, and then one capstone. And really the only new class would be the capstone. But we have 2 large FANUC robots we picked up from GM, all the associated guarding and safety PLCs, which is going to be huge for some other parts of the program. And then we did, I actually have I'm going to FANUC to get certified for do an additional certification because we have the robot weld cert cart we picked up from IST. But that has been sort of on hold a little bit lately, so stay tuned on that. And we have lots of things going on in the building and minimal space, which is also impacting what we're able to do. Space is actually one of our biggest problems right now.
Yeah, we actually have 2 of those Lincoln Fanuc weld carts, but it was a long story. One of our welding instructors was really pushing for it. He left. The other welding instructor wasn't really pushing for it. Plus, we have some space issues. Well, now that one left. So this is one of my trying to nudge the new guy that's coming on board next month. Is we've got a couple industries out here. It's really hard for us to go across the street and see a local machine shop that's got a robot welder that is asking us for training, and we've got 2 trainers sitting in the shop and we're not using them. So yeah, it's a good hard push for us, but we're working on trying to get some more space, and we'll see what we can do with the new guy. Again, we're all one-man departments here. I get jealous hearing you guys talk about the tool crib guy. I am the tool crib guy. And the lab pickup. And as I always tell people, it's me, myself, and I. And the big problem is myself and I are really lazy, so it's just me. So, but again, we've got the equipment. We're getting some demand, which is starting to get some momentum behind it that I hope we'll be doing it in the next year or so.
Pausing real quick on there. I think we got to recognize Mark is working on his first Dean talk right there. And it was there. You know, the new guy's going to come in. He's going to talk to him about how they have his equipment and they're going to use it. And he was all kind. It was beautiful, Mark.
Gee, thanks. Maybe that's why they asked me to take the job. Or maybe they just didn't want to do a search.
Yep, I loved it. So, yeah, gold star on that one.
Okay, good, because I was thinking maybe they just wanted me out of this job. But anyway.
No, but on a serious point, I think we're all running into it on there is, you know, we're small too. We're, 3,500 students total. And so I got one of my instructors, I'm looking at him out here right now. We push him hard, right? And so that's one thing I'm always really worried about is, we have great initiatives and great ideas, and we can buy equipment at NMC. We can't always buy people, nor do we try to hire people. And sometimes I wish we could flip-flop that.
Yeah, we have space and we have equipment, but we need talent.
I third that sentiment. We have so much equipment, but we don't have space anymore.
Well, we're wrapping up. We got about 5 minutes left on there. And then I think the session's in for today. Any last takeaways? I did see a little note where it looks like, did I see this right? Looks like they're going to have another round of roundtables in February. Is that true? I thought I saw that this morning on the presentation.
Yeah, I saw that too.
All right. Any last words for the group from anybody? Well, Sullivan, thank you very much for hosting this, and everybody, thank you very much for coming.
Looking forward to being back in Traverse City next year.
Yeah, it's a couple weeks earlier. I saw like October, mid-October.
Yeah, it's earlier. I like that.
Mm-hmm. So
less chance of snow for my drive.
Yes. Oh.
Thanks, guys.
All right. See you guys.
All right.
Nice seeing everybody.
Have a great day.
So do you think as they get more people on there, the platform becomes unstable? You're muted.
Oh, I said I had all kinds of problems. I can't see you. I see your square, but it's totally black.
Yeah, and
as people rejoined, I'd see their video, but every 10 minutes I'd lose my audio. So I not super impressed with how that went.
I'm taking a last minute note. That's what I'm running into. So like right now I have tons and tons of that audio feedback on there. And I know it's just a streaming issue, but I know the only way I can get rid of it is to leave and come back.
Did you go out and test your system? Because I did, and it came up, and my streaming and my connectivity and everything came up like 5-star, like the best. And I'm looking at, I have great internet where I'm at, so it's definitely the platform. But I didn't. They must be bouncing bandwidth around. Maybe these roundtables were extremely well attended, and as more people were coming on, it seemed kind of like they were shifting it around. I don't know. There had to be someone behind the scenes monitoring that, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing.
I had a really hard time there for a minute. I thought it was Mark Hyam for a minute, and then I realized it was me. I was getting that helicopter. I still can't see your video. I don't know why.
No, I mean, don't worry about it. You're not seeing much, but that's what we're running into too. Is that's what I saw. So
last year it was on Zoom, right?
It was on Zoom. I think we were the NMC was the provider, and we were pretty good at it. I mean, we have a pretty good tech team on here. So like we did all the webinars and we did all that interfacing. So it was really stable, but this one was funky.
Weird.
Also too, like, how's your turnout from Mott? Like, I think I'm one of the only people from NMC. Like, we had like 2 or 3 people sign up, but I haven't seen them anywhere.
The only ones I know are Rob and Mark Bannatyne, our dean. And Rob, hosted the roundtable, and Mark had a presentation. But it's always been a kind of a boondoggle for other people sometimes. So the second you take away a trip and it's virtual, they have no. It's kind of like when it was in Detroit. Remember?
Yeah, Dennis just hung out the whole time.
It's like, if you live in Detroit, it's like, well, why do I want to go? I'm already here. I don't know. I always get a lot out of the roundtable. I just wish I missed chunks here and there. So I don't think that'll be rectified with the recording, obviously.
I thought
But think about it though. If I'm having a strange audio issue, but no one else is, and then I'm fine, and then someone else is having the issue, like you, it kind of makes me think that I don't know.
Makes me think it's a platform issue.
Well, it's a platform issue, but are they bouncing it around to fit a fixed amount of bandwidth? I don't know.
Which could be on there.
That way, we'll only have someone have a problem for 3 minutes, but I doubt it. That sounds sinister. It's too bad the tech guy isn't popping in here. I'm looking at we're the only 2 on here.
Yeah. So
anyway, much easier in person, like I said.
Our group does better in person. You picked up on that right away. I mean, they talk more. That Chris guy from GRCC was quite talkative. I enjoyed that. But all of them, they communicate so much better on there.
Well, you can be a lot more candid when you don't look at the recording button in the top right,
Yeah, and I think too, it's some interesting things. That Bay Community College gig with Mark would not be a bad gig on there.
Oh, that'd be sweet, wouldn't it?
Yeah, the only thing you'd run into, and you know how this is it would take a little bit of time for, him to be full dean mode and not instructor mode, but that would actually be okay because you'd actually have a person you could work with for a little bit. But
yeah, he'd be a lot of fun to work with. And when he said that his boss moved up and that's why he took the job, it made total sense because when I look at him, I don't see a dean. I see a technical expert. He's
and his boss, yeah, she's really high growth. Like you can tell, she's VP or whatever, and she'll be president, somewhere else. I mean, she's high potential, and pretty aggressive. Awesome. So, yeah, it's interesting. I was looking at their school right now. Dude, that'd be so cold up there. But they do have a couple of good transfer options already with MTU.
Oh, totally. There's a lot of opportunity for sure. Yeah, we put in a what were we gonna do? That was right before the pandemic. I'm sure you saw it. Michigan Tech was going to do oh man, I forgot what it's called. Alex up there, you know him? It was like a summer workshop.
Yeah.
I'd have to look at the description again, but we were selected, and it made total sense. It would have been really cool to do, but I think it all fell apart. That was about a little over 2 years ago. That was starting to come together, and he had submitted that to the National Science Foundation for the grant for, I think, repeatedly until it got accepted. I'd like to follow up on that because I think what we have on the floor at Mott would fit perfectly. I talked to the guy from Lake State who was in our lab, and second he saw it, he was like, "Oh, we gotta get some stuff going on. This is exactly like our lab."
Was that Dave somebody from Lake State? Who was it?
Oh, geez, I don't remember. I have his card somewhere.
So we did it too, and then it was crickets. And then I sent a follow-up email and was like, "Hey," and then he told me he was working on a PhD at MTU and something else was going on, right? And he needed more time. And then it was like nothing.
Yeah, we almost had too many projects in the hopper, 2 years ago. And it was almost getting to be we were building a monowheel with a club. We had that battle bot going on. We had, on top of all the other coursework and projects, and then HVAC line do shipping container homes and have us do a lot of the electrical controls for more industrial HVAC topics. And, obviously it all just is paused and kind of continues to be to a certain degree because, we're still coming out of this, I think people are a little bit cautious with the purse strings as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll let you know about Lake State and Michigan Tech. That's two I need to revisit.
Well, and I'll keep you posted too, because the Lake State one, I'm looking at my email right now. It's we were like Dave Leach, that's who it was. We were kind of far apart on one program, and then he had a mechatronics program, but then they were dug in, Sullivan, you know how those guys are. Well, that's not how we run our PLC class. I'm like, dude, we're running 2 PLC classes, and I just want credit for 1, right? 2 for 1 on here.
Yep.
And then Michigan Tech is trying to, so there's rumors that Michigan Tech wants to build a campus down here. Because they have a large alumni base, something like 4,500 alumni within 100 miles of Traverse. Wow. And then there's a bunch of startup companies and startup money coming to town, which is nice on there. I mean, it has its own issues. But I'm working with them right now. They have a liaison that they physically moved down here. He has an office. And then, we're looking at ways that we can better connect, but they don't want to connect much. They want they either want you to do the engineering transfer track, right?
Yeah.
Or, I really do think they're talking about putting programs down here, which would be interesting.
Yeah, that'd be a competing factor. What we've run into is like U of M, for example. This was years ago, but they wanted to tour our FANUC labs. We brought them through, and this is great. Like the way this is set up. And I said, well, if you want to run classes, just run them here. We'll work out a schedule. Just like we have non-credit classes in there and credit. That could open up all kinds of possibilities. But they ended up just kind of building their own. But now there's, now there's more initiative, I think, from their side because of enrollment concerns and so on. But we're all right here. We have Flint's kind of a little college town, contrary to what people might know. I know you know that a little bit, but it's going to change. We didn't really get a chance to get into that towards the end, but that'd be a good one for February if there's another roundtable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be on there. Yeah, that part will all be interesting. How those all work out.
Well, just for robotics stuff, I mean, all those industry certs are no-brainers. Just, even with PLCs, I'd love to do those Rockwell certs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't believe we haven't done that yet.
It's because they're not the easiest to work with.
Yeah, well, exactly. And it's clunky, and they're so big. That place is insane. I have so many contacts, and they bounce around and move on, and they've always been on our advisory board, heavy, and they've always been the major player in our area in terms of PLCs and controls, but that is shifting as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, I got to get running here. Let's.
All right, dude.
I can't even see you, so this is weird.
All right, man. We'll talk.
I might as well just call you on the phone.
All right, I'll talk to you, Sullivan.
Despite the technical difficulties, good session. We'll be in touch.
Sounds good, man.
I'll see you tomorrow.